Hi, and welcome to the latest installment of The Drive, CBSNews.com's show on the race to the GOP nomination. I'm Brian Montopoli, and today we are talking debate. There was a debate last night in New Hampshire. A lot of the presidential candidates were there, 7 of them, in fact. Now, one thing to remember is these debates are not necessarily watched by that much of the public. A lot of the public isn't really paying attention to the presidential race right now, but who is paying attention is elite opinion makers. We're talking about journalists, we're talking about donors, we're talking about important Republicans, and that's why these things are important. Even if average Americans aren't necessarily tuning in, the donors are, the top people are, so you need to make a good impression. So let's go right into the winners and losers. Our first loser is Tim Pawlenty. Tim Pawlenty, the guy who's been setting himself up as the alternative to Mitt Romney. Now, going into the debate, Pawlenty had said, taking a shot at Mitt Romney over this health care law that he signed in Massachusetts, Romneycare. That's been compared derisively to Obamacare, the federal health care law. Pawlenty coined this nice term, Obamnicare, suggesting that they were the same. But asked about this in the debate, he wouldn't address it. And he came off really as somewhat timid, someone who's not willing to sort of do what it takes to differentiate himself from Mitt Romney. So Tim Pawlenty unfortunately lost some yardage. Right now we have him about on the 18-yard line here on the big board. We are going to move him back. And of course, again, the drive to the nomination, you're trying to get to the end zone. A bit of a sack for Pawlenty last night. So we're going to move him back here to about the 10. Sorry, Mr. Pawlenty. Let's talk about a winner from last night, and that would be Michelle Bachmann, the controversial Minnesota representative. Now, Bachmann, announced her presidential campaign at the debate. The weird world of politics, you can go to a presidential debate without being an announced candidate. But she did announce last night. She also spoke really well in terms of sound bites. She introduced herself well. She stumbled a little bit on a question or two, but that doesn't matter as much as just making a good first impression and convincing people that you're viable, and she did that. So Bachmann, we're going to move up. She gained some yards. We're going to put her right here around the 17-yard line. So that is good news for her. Now, that is also bad news for some other folks, namely Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin was not at the debate, but Palin is meant to be the standard bearer for the Tea Party for social conservatives. If Bachmann takes that role, and Bachmann is also notably the only other female on the board, that's bad news for Palin. So Palin took a bit of a hit last night. We're going to move her back a little bit to the 10. Another loser I want to talk about from last night is Herman Cain, the Atlanta businessman who did so well in the first debate. Unfortunately for him, in this debate, he really didn't make much of an impression. He stumbled on some of these factual issues. There's an emerging consensus that he doesn't necessarily have all of the policy details worked out, and that while he's a good speaker, he hasn't been able to sort of put together what you need to be presidential. He did not remedy that last night, so Herman Cain, we're going to move back. He has been our breakout star so far, but unfortunately for him, not so much last night. So there we go. Newt Gingrich, I'm going to also call a loser. He didn't necessarily have a bad debate, but of course Gingrich, as we talked about on our last show, had gone through this terrible campaign so far where he had stumbled out of the gate. His campaign fired him, and he really needed a Hail Mary last night to fix that. He didn't do it, so we are keeping Gingrich here in the end zone. If you recall, last time we did the show, we safetied Mr. Gingrich. He remains there. Not a lot to talk about with Ron Paul or Rick Santorum. They remain real long shots for the campaign. The one guy I do want to talk about is our frontrunner, who, believe it or not, is even more of a frontrunner after last night. People went into this debate saying, who's going to attack Mitt Romney? Is he going to be able to defend his health care law? Is he going to be able to defend himself as, this perception he's a flip-flopper? Well, nobody went after Mitt Romney. It's a little strange because people are trying to get differentiation from him, but they didn't bother going after him. They sort of let him have his day, and he was very comfortable on that stage. He was cracking jokes. He mentioned that the Bruins were ahead in their Stanley Cup final game. It was just a good night all around for Mitt Romney. He really cast himself as the most presidential guy on the field. So our board only goes up to the 30 because it's early, but we're going to move Mitt all the way up here to the 30. I would move him even maybe to the 35 if I could, but we have to fix the board for that. Other than that, I think we're going to wrap up. The only thing I want to mention is I actually just confirmed with a source that John Huntsman, who you see right here, the former Utah governor, will be announcing his presidential campaign next Tuesday in Liberty State Park with Lady Liberty his backdrop. That, our older viewers may remember, is where President Reagan announced his campaign in 1980. Huntsman has worked in the Reagan White House, and he's clearly happy with that comparison. Huntsman oddly was not in the debate last night, which, considering that New Hampshire is an important state for him and the debate was in New Hampshire, was a strange choice. But he'll be kicking off a tour to New Hampshire, Utah, Florida, where he's going to base his campaign, Nevada, and South Carolina following his announcement. So that'll be fun to watch. I think that's it for the drive this week. Thanks so much for being with us. We will see you soon. I will be in New Orleans this week at the Southern Republican Leadership Conference, trying to catch up with some of these folks and their staffers, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks so much.